For your patience, well, we got set up. So my name's Liam Billingham. I'm the adult education specialist here at Brick. There's a wonderful panel of people behind me. How about a round of applause for the wonderful people? So this is night 2 of the Brick Media Maker Weekend, which is an effort by your community media center to get you to know the power of public access television and what it can do for you. And also, we've decided to have the second part of our 3-part pitch series. The first event was back in September on the Stoop, and that was sort of a pitch workshop. And tonight is a panel where these wonderful folks are going to talk a little bit about their experience pitching and working with pitches and things like that. And then we're going to have another event on November 16th, which is going to be an open pitch for Brick TV. What is Brick TV? You're going to find out in a few minutes if you don't already know. If you don't already know, leave. No, I'm kidding. You can stay. But I'm not going to take up much more of your time, but thank you for coming. And I do have to tell you all, this is part of the deal, that you're at Brick, and Brick is the leading presenter of free cultural programming in Brooklyn and one of the largest in New York City. We present and incubate work by artists and media makers who reflect the diversity that surrounds us, and Brick's programs reach hundreds of thousands of people each year. All right, so I'm going to leave you for now. I'll be back at the end in about an hour. But right now I'm going to turn it over to Keisha Cole right here, who is our wonderful senior producer at Brick TV, and she'll tell you what you need to know and introduce these panelists. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Have fun.
Thanks, Liam. Awesome. Thanks again, everyone, so much for coming. I'm sure the children will get a lot from this. Pitching, it goes across the gamut, across age demographics. But Liam's already introduced me, just a little bit about me. I've worked here for a while, and since the inception of Brick TV, I work on a lot of mini documentary projects. I also co-produce a little show called B-Side. I hope you guys check it out. I don't want to do any shameless plugging, but I'd like all of our illustrious panel to just do a quick intro of themselves. So,
I'm Robin Green-Arrington, and I work for TV One. I am the Vice President of Programming and Production for the network.
I am Charlie Hoxie. I'm also a senior producer at Brick TV, and as well as a freelance editor when I have the time for that as well.
I'm Squeaky Moore, author of 100 Pitches Mistakes I've Made So You Don't Have to. And I am a pitching coach and development consultant and a content creator.
My name is Christopher Poindexter. I'm a writer, producer. I currently have a show on Brick TV, Brooklynites, and I'm also an attorney.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Now that you talked about Brooklynification, I'm also executive producing a scripted series called Soul King here at Brick TV, and I hope you check it out with Michael Pinkney. So let's get right into it. We saw on the website all the 3 stages of pitches. So we don't want to get into all of those technicalities, but we're talking about ideas. I want to know from you all what's more important, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do we get the pitch before the script or the script before the pitch? And that's to anybody. Yeah.
It just depends. Today actually was an interesting day because we've had some success with some of our crime dramas or our real crime shows. And we are looking for more scripts in that area. So we went out to a number of new writers and had them pitch us. Although we sent them all these materials, we sent them shows to look at, we sent them background on the stories, and then we had them pitch us all day long. And that's a unique case, but people can send a script in. A lot of times we're getting scripts from other places and we look at it that way. I'm a writer too, and I didn't say that, but I prefer to see, me personally, I prefer to see your script or your treatment. I want to see it on paper. I think a pitch is really good, but people can sell you with words and they can't do it on paper. They can sell it verbally, but not on paper. It just depends on the individual. At my company in particular, the people who work for me, some love the written word and some like the verbal pitch. The LA people, the Hollywooders, they love the verbal. And the East Coasters tend to like, in my experience, like the word at my company.
And let's hear from the pitch coach.
I'm going to say script first and then pitch. Completely develop everything first.
And why is that, Squeaky?
Just because you need to be prepared for whatever it's going to be, asked of you. And I think Robin said it. If we come up with a million ideas. Think of all of the ideas that we didn't act on, right? And so it's easy to sell an idea, but can you follow it through? Especially when you're talking about a series, like can you follow that through? Can you really create something like that throughout? And then what about writer's block and all of these different things that come up? So, and we, she's the buyer, I'm you, right? And so we only get one opportunity to make the best impression that we can, and to keep the door, even if it doesn't, go all the way through, even if it's a no, and we're not going to go with that idea, it's the impression you make that keeps the door open, and we don't want to mess that up.
So can we all talk about any individual pitch experiences we've had, lately? Charlie, you were just recently pitching
I was
something
at
called
IFP Film Week, and I was there with the documentary series that I created for Brick TV. And it was a great, very educational experience for me. We had to, I guess the big thing I learned there is just there's such a range of, situations for pitching, right? So it's I'd say good to be kind of, you have your 30-second elevator pitch, you have your 3 minutes, which, there's a huge difference between 30 seconds and 3 minutes. If you get a chance for 10 minutes or 30 minutes to sit down with somebody, have a clear idea in your head of the essential things that you want to get across, if you're just in a conversation at a happy hour with somebody and you have one sentence to get across, what your project is, or if it's more of a meeting, short meeting, what do you say in the different situations you're in. Yeah.
Can I ask Chris now, if you guys haven't checked out gentrification,
Brooklynification.
but that's back to the tagline, because I'm always thinking of a tagline for you in my head, because it was kind of like gentrification meets jokes.
Brooklyn, yes.
The intersection of gentrification and jokes.
Yes.
But how important was that elevator pitch for you to get that show on Brick TV, and how did that come about?
Sure.
It's an awesome show.
Sure. I'm pretty sure I'm here today on this panel to speak from a position of failure, rejection, hard times of going through the experiences and learning from that experience and having to impart wisdom from all that failure and rejection. But I think what happened with Brooklynification is that I think the 30-second pitch is important, and I think when I pitched to the director that I wanted to work with, hey, I want to do a comedy about gentrification. He got it, right? And then I could tell, and then I told 2 or 3 stories that I've had or experienced in my life. I had a homeless person who, when I moved into this new building, I was so excited about it, but I had a homeless guy who kept pooping right in front of my door, right? And then I had an experience where, bringing my son, I'm a black person who went to all public black schools, and putting my kid into a private white school, right? So whenever I tell anybody about these stories, everyone has their own story. Oh yeah, I had this neighbor who's a jazz musician, which I thought was cool the first week, and then the second week I'm like, this is terrible, right? So once I started that conversation with the folks at Brick, they had their own stories, and they just got it immediately. Brooklynification, a gentrification comedy, you could almost see it, and you could almost imagine what those stories would be. So without even, I think having done this long enough, I sort of internalized, you got to be able to describe it in that short period of time.
And what short period of time are we talking about?
Right. Well, so I guess the other thing I wanted to add is that I think that's all very technical about is it a 30-second pitch, is it a 3-minute pitch? Because I think ultimately what I did is when we did the pitch, I never met these people before, Kai and Aziz, I think I was pitching myself more than anything else. So I feel like all the work, all the struggle I've been doing all these years had paid off till I got to a point where, and I also had in mind what I needed. I was very aware of my personal deficiencies, which is, just life. But in this instance, it was important because I knew I needed an experienced director in order to pitch this anywhere. And Keith Miller, who I saw his film 5 Star, which I thought was awesome. We were both members of Brooklyn Filmmaker Collection and Collective, and I knew I probably needed someone like him as part of my team in order to pitch it. So I think once I walked in with Keith with this idea that was easily saleable, and then my history, my background, that did 70-80% of the work. And then having that idea that was pitchable, easily to grasp, did the rest of the work. They didn't have a script. They didn't have. I sent maybe a week later. I sent them log lines for each individual episode. But it was the team and what I brought together that ultimately sold the project.
That's a great point that you bring up, Chris, because how important are like these connectors and these adjacencies and these affiliations? Like, do you have your team together when you come? Like, you're like, this is my producer and this is my producing team. Or, is that not even necessary? Should we not be focusing on that as much? Because I know, it's different if you have like some superstar, like I'm like, I have Spike Lee who's executive producing. That's going to get you the door. But,
I mean, it depends. Everything depends, right? Everything depends on the situation. But sometimes having people who are too experienced could hurt you, right? Because they might come with a lot of demands and they're going to drive your budget up. Right? So that is not always a good thing. I think that initially, and I'm listening to everyone speak, it's about your passion. And it's also a conversation. Some people come in and they're acting, or they're just prepared in a way that's like they're uncomfortable with it. It should be a story. You should be having a conversation. And if it's on paper, it needs to be spell checked. I mean, it does. Right. It needs to be presented in a really good way.
Take notes.
Yesterday, I actually got a pitch that was sent by the chairperson and of TV1, of the whole everything. And the person didn't even bother to spell check their cover letter. So after I critiqued it and said why it didn't work for the network, I also said, finally, these are some other issues why I don't think this person could actually execute in a way that's deliverable for quality that we need. We need a meticulous situation when we're doing television, right? We have QC policies, but it just depends on who you are and what the project is. I mean, yes, if Spike Lee's going to be involved with your project and it's going to elevate it, that's important. But if Spike Lee's going to be there and Spike Lee's going to take away the money and he's going to fight with the network execs, and there's a lot of layers. Like, it is a lot of layers. There's my layer, which is programming and production. And then one of my colleagues is here, she's research. And then there's ad sales and there's affiliate. There's so many layers and we have to be able to take it up. So Chris said you have to have your, Charlie, I'm sorry, why do you keep saying Chris? Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Apologize. So you have to have layers. You have to have your elevator pitch, and then you have to have your 30-minute pitch, and you should have something written. I'm not always sure that a script is the best thing to always have, because people want to put their fingerprint on stuff. Like for series, you need a Bible and you need to have your things broken down. But for a movie, you can have a treatment. You can have a synopsis. It's a really good idea. But I have to believe that you know what you're talking about and that you've researched it. I mean, Boy Meets Girl is Harry Met Sally and Romeo and Juliet. I gotta believe that you believe in your project.
How important are those log lines and connectors? Like, you seem like you would be an expert on the log line. How important is that to just have the, because it's just like, it's like the connection, like this, it's like this, and I think that's a big part of this business, right?
I think I think the log lines, they're the key. I mean, if you don't know anyone from Adam, and it's like your resume, they don't know you from Adam, all they have is this, or your headshot, right? All they have is this to go off of. That's what they're going to use to pull you in. And a log line is you have to spend so much time. You should spend a lot of time on it because it's the thing that's going to grab the other person who knows nothing about you. It's going to grab their attention. They're pairing it with their mandate, what they know that they are looking for, or I don't always believe that networks know what they're looking for, but they know what they're looking for. But if they see something that they like, that's a different story. And so it has to be what someone in social media will say is clickbait, right? You have to go, oh, that that's interesting. Let me go further. And so you should spend time on it, saying, like, if I wasn't me and this wasn't my project, would I be interested in this? And then as far as connecting it to, I always kind of feel like if you're going to start a pitch, you almost should state kind of where you're going first, because what I think is that when I get to her, she's spinning, as I'm trying to explain myself in this whatever time frame we have, she's in her head trying to piece everything that I have together. So sometimes if you just start with either a log line or the premise of what you're going to be pitching, then it brings it all down, and they can settle in and focus on what you have to say at this point. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it's about a boy who, it's about an alien that lands on the on Earth and meets a boy, and then go into what ET is about. Then you kind of know at this point. Now they can follow you. But if you start where you're like, so there's this little boy, and he's sitting around and he's talking, and then all of a sudden, then you're going there. Now they're like they don't know if it's a drama. They don't know if it's, so they're piecing it together, and you kind of have to find that segue, that first sentence, that first thing that's going to make them go, okay, now I know what I'm listening to.
Like that clickable moment.
And just to add on to that, one technique that you can think about trying is to use a question. Start with a question that kind of gets their wheels turning, where they're thinking of their answer to it, and then you give your answer. So.
Like that. Like, do you have a log line for Brooklynification?
For Brooklynification, no. I went with it's a comedy, it's a gentrification living, and I ask questions about, we all have these stories about living in Brooklyn. So that one worked a little different. We came in the room with 6 specific stories of what happened or these incidents that happened around Brooklynification. And then by the time we left, we had 12 more just talking to the people we were pitching to.
It's like you almost
because they had their own stories. But yeah, I think, as you're saying this, I'm working through my mind, like my latest thing that I'm thinking about, right? So I wanted to do a piece about what's it like to have white friends, right? And give it from a black person's perspective. And so with that big thing in mind, I had this idea of doing a rom-com, a black rom-com, or a white rom-com. And it's a typical rom-com, but it's from the perspective of the black friend. Because all these rom-coms have the cliche black friend, right? So what do we do? The entire rom-com, mainly white people, but it's from that person's perspective or whatever. And you kind of get that, because you know what a rom-com is, you know what it looks like, but it's in my mind, it's a totally new angle. And then it also taps into, because it's all, I like to have some sort of social conscious element to it. It also taps into this bigger issue. What are we really going to speak on? Which is, relationship. What's it like to be in that position? And I think the people who would be most intrigued by it would be white people. Like, oh, what does my black friend think? And then the people, and the black person, when I pitch it to black people, they all have the stories. They know exactly what I'm talking about.
Just hearing that, I'm just like,
what's
the log line?
What's the log line? That's what I need to talk to you about. Or whatever.
There's elements to a log line, though. A lot of people mistake a log line for the premise. I think a lot of the times they think, because they've said what puts the story in motion. A lot of people mistake the premise for the log line, but there's elements. There's there's elements that are typical story elements that should comprise.
So wait, by log line you mean like this is Bridesmaid meets Get Out?
No, that's what she's calling her connectors.
I think that's like one way
a log
to do
line
a
is
log
just
line.
yeah.
A log line
It's like
the one sentence
that explains what the entirety
show is.
of your
Because
project is.
As executive producer for like my new show that I'm working on sneaker culture, it was like time. Like we're pulling it out, and I'm like, what do we put on the trailer? I don't know, And I was just like, it's a show about kicks, And we couldn't think of anything else better, so it was just like that's what it is. It's very on the nose, but almost liken some of these execs, no shade, to like just people like, when you're on House Hunters and they're going to see a house and they're like, but the walls are purple. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, you almost have to like just dumb it down. Just like, you know, you can paint the walls. It's okay. Just kind of give it to them.
Don't listen to her.
Give it to them. You know, give it to them quickly. Can we talk about like a bad pitch as opposed to a good pitch? Like, what is that sort of like eureka epiphany moment where you know that you're like, this is it?
Well, I actually know from the first minute, like when a person
minute?
says, yeah, I do.
Wow.
Well, you know, your elevator pitch is really fast, right? So if you get into my office, squeaky, if you get into my office, then I've actually made a decision that you're going to be there and I'm going to listen to you. But it's really hard to get a meeting with me because I sit on a phone doing executive stuff all the time. But you can tell from the moment a person starts speaking whether or not they're committed and whether or not they really believe in their story or they even have a story. I mean, I have loads of bad pitches that I can tell you about. They're not memorable. It's the good pitches that are memorable. Like that's the stuff like today we had a pitch and like my executive in LA and one in Maryland and I were like we were happy. We were so happy. No, we were actually talking to this person. The person had the job. Like we got these new, too bad you guys. We had these writers that have had relationships with us and they're like won awards and festivals, and we are bringing in a bunch of new writers to work on some projects for us. But they got it. We were feeding them the idea, but their take on it was amazing because these were shows that we've already done that were real life shows, and they're taking them apart, and it was amazing for us. But a bad pitch is just a bad pitch. Like, you know a bad pitch, you know a bad book. The first 10 pages of anything determines, we're not gonna go past 10 pages. Sometimes, and it's actually unfair because the second act is the hardest act, but the first 10 pages is how you get someone into your story. What I've asked my team to do is to actually read the middle and then to read the end, just to give people a chance. But you have a moment. If you're on the elevator and I see squeaky, I'm like, oh my God, it's a great story. It's about the Bronx because the Bronx is the best borough. No, but I'm joking. But you know, I just know in a minute if it's a bad pitch.
Wow.
I think I've seen some bad pitches. You learn in the end that sometimes the stories are really amazing. And it's just that we don't know how to effectively communicate what we've spent a lot of time preparing. Yes. Because most of the time we don't know what to start. And so then we come to Robin and we don't know how to sell our stories. And it sucks because we're not telling the most important stuff. So for instance, you know, we could sit somewhere, or I can sit somewhere and I can hear the whole thing and it's like, but what's the pitch? What are you selling? And the person is talking about themselves, they're talking about their why, they're talking about how they came about writing this, and then they may even say who's attached. They may talk about who put the money on the back end and all of these different things. And then you're like, I don't know anything about the project that you're talking about though. And then their time is up, right? And so they haven't effectively communicated what it is that they want to talk about. And so I think that's what makes the pitch bad at the end of the day. When you get in there and you've talked about a bunch of stuff, but you have not sold your project.
But can I say something to that?
What's amazing about it.
If you're not a good speaker and you can't do the pitch, I mean, it takes time. It's like, all right, everything, you have to hone stuff. Then make your deck really good. Make your presentation on paper good and send that ahead. Because people will forgive you for that. Because if your story's good.
Google that.
Yeah, like a deck's like like kind of a PowerPoint, right? Kind of a presentation of your idea and who might be in it. And it's small, you know, but whatever you're going to present on the paper, just make that tight. Because I might forgive it. If it's a really good story, I might forget that your pitch is not so bad. You're not verbally adept at speaking.
But from my perspective, and I think she's absolutely right if they get to that. So again, I'm you, right? And the problem about having an amazing deck and you can't communicate your ideas is that half the time network isn't, they'll say, yeah, send me your deck, send me your one sheet, send me these different things or whatever. And so let me talk about process. So a process may be that I may do a dope subject heading, and then I may say, hey, would you be interested, are you kind of interested in this? This is this, and it's about this, and this, and this, and this, right? Give a little bit about it. That intrigued them enough to bring me in. Robin said, you know, if you're in my office, that means something you sent, what you sent in, it got you here. Then they may say, okay, cool, we'll get you in. They may or may not ask for this deck or the Bible or the one sheet ahead of time, or the script. But even if they do, you gotta prep and prepare because, like she said, she'd be busy. They just like, oh, sometimes they just may not get. You can't count on the fact that they may look at the deck or read the script or read it all the way through, or maybe they don't, whatever, we don't know because they gotten busy. But now it's time, and you need to be. Now you're ready to get and sit in their chair, and they're like, oh, I ain't read that, but let me hear your pitch. And now that's all they have, right? That's all that they have that they know about. I mean, they know they have a script and they're going to probably read it, but they haven't yet. So you even though you do have a bomb deck, you still have to be prepared. You still have to be able to communicate your idea effectively, which takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, and talking about practice, I mean, I heard there was like a really thin line from being like over-rehearsed and under-rehearsed.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to ask could you guys just step the baby? Because I just lost my train of thought actually. But the
Under-rehearsed.
But this person was saying that they would really suggest that and you're an actor. I don't know about anybody else. Are you an actor, Chris? No. But to take that improv class and just to get ready, because truthfully, at IFP that we went to last month. I've seen so many creative. I was kind of astounded because I was like, these people pulled out every stop. They were trying to sell some media, and this woman, she brought like a rum cake, and she was passing it out to everybody in the audience, and like the show was like about it was set in like the 1800s, and it was in the West Indies, and she's like, here's a rum cake that was like baked from my grandmother's kitchen, and I was just like, I'm so interested in this. Like, this is very interesting. One guy sang, one guy went into he started doing the script in like a monologue situation. So how important do you think creativity is? Because I think it's just like a different playing field at this point, because I didn't know people brought cakes. Like, I was like, she brought a cake.
Sure. Yeah, I saw some of those too in a different session. There was one about documentary series about the jail that had this viral video, this jail in the Philippines that had a video of all their prisoners doing like Michael Jackson's Thriller. And so they were doing a documentary series about that specific prison. They had the access and everything. And at the end of their pitch, they had 2 dancers come down in like orange jumpsuits and do a little thing. So yeah, I mean, I think if it works, like, don't be afraid of kind of creative ideas like that, but don't necessarily need them. And I, just to kind of go back to some of the last couple of questions, like, what is a bad pitch, and rehearsal and preparation and improv classes. I think, like rehearse is like the best preparation. I think the some bad pitches that I saw, it just seemed like somebody wasn't really prepared and wasn't comfortable. So whatever it takes, like just you'll find if you practice your pitch to as many different people as possible, get people's reactions to kind of like what hooks certain people, what hooks others. And then just, the more you rehearse it, the less you think about it. And
could I ask you a question? Those bells and whistles that you guys saw, like the rum cake, was it a really good pitch? Because
it was like they were credentialed. Like, it was just, I was like, I want to hear this like flash forward and flash back, and it was, but it just added to it. It was just like, it seemed like another.
What's your take? I'm waiting to hear from you. Like, would you?
Would
that be too much?
I would have totally bought it. But
no, it depends on the environment. Like in that environment, yes, don't come to my office with a rum cake. I'm trying to do a cleanse next week. But it depends, right? So if you have all these bells and whistles, but it's still whack, like it's gonna annoy me even more.
Yeah.
Like your packaging.
You're trying to do too much?
Yes, it's about story. It ultimately comes down to your story. Can you convey that to me? That's really cool though.
Yeah.
I think if you have something and you can bring it forward quickly and tangible, like it's great. But if your story lacks, your story lacks. Like you're not gonna fool an executive or anybody, not even an executive, is the audience, because we're only the gateway to the rest of the people who are gonna watch it on TV or in the theaters. That's what it just comes down to, good stories.
How important do you guys think that workshopping your actual script is? Because I'm like that person who just like writes a script and like no one's ever seen it, but I think it's good. Do you ever like share it with other people and just kind of get that feedback from your actual script?
I think you absolutely have to do it. Me personally, I am a super idiosyncratic writer, and like there are things that crack in comedy, and there's things that crack me up that might not crack anybody else up in the world. So like, I got tons of ideas, right? So, you know, I need someone to say to me, well, that doesn't work, or I don't get that. What's that? That's fine, and that's what having a partner, my partner for Brooklynification was super helpful. Because he could say, I had a joke reference to footprints on the wall. Do you guys, who knows what footprints are on the wall, right? Footprints, the Jesus walking on the beach?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Right. And who has not heard of footprints? Raise your hand. Or know what that is, reference.
No?
Don't.
Okay, so so my partner in this project is white, right? And he was like, what is that? What is that even a reference to? I'm like, no, every black person in the world knows what footprints is, right? Footprint, right. He's like, I don't think, or whatever. And then we had a third person to ask or whatever. But we had to weigh what our audience would be, and we decided, okay, maybe we'll do something else. But anyway, because I write so specific or whatever, I need to throw ideas out to people. And my brother's actually a screenwriter, and he's a commercial screenwriter who does like Disney movies. And so he has a super generic, that sounds bad. He has a super like eye, which I go to him for that stuff, right? I'm like, can I get that sort of feedback? And then I get his feedback. I know exactly what that feedback is worth because I know his taste or whatever. And then I discard everything else, which I don't want because I know what I want to do or whatever. But it's good to get those different perspectives when you know exactly what you want from them. In my opinion.
So, if you have a script too, just keep writing. Like while you're making meetings, just keep writing. It's the rewrite that is really the script. Your first script is your vomit. You're just getting it out. Just keep rewriting. The script we just did a movie called When Love Kills for TV One. The writer had been working on it for 10 years.
No way.
Yes. But the thing about it, she wasn't waiting. She had worked on other stuff for us. Actually, one of my executives found it on set while we were doing another movie, and they were just talking about this show we had done on Fatal Attraction, this real crime show, and it happened to be one of those episodes. But the script it was so good, but she had been working on it for 10 years. She wasn't waiting just for that to happen. She kept working while she was trying to sell it. And and I believe in God, and I believe there are moments, things are just going to come together. But as a writer, I'm a writer too. You just got to keep writing and writing and writing while you're taking the meetings, in between meetings, because you're honing it. And the more you do that, the more you're going to see it yourself, even if you don't trust anybody with your stuff. Because I know some writers don't trust people, but yeah.
Is it like more is more? Like, do you have, this is squeaky more. Is it like, do you have like a bunch of projects, or do you like super hone in on that one project? Or is it just like a numbers game after a while to where, you should have like multiple sort of,
Well, I think, we all start with our babies, right? That we get this one script, that's our baby, and we won't let that go. And if it doesn't happen, and if we hear a no, we're down to the ground, knees bleeding, because we're so crushed. And it's pretty much because we don't know if we could really do this again, right? It's like, can I really produce something this great again? Half the time when we look back, it's not as great as we thought it was, but to the working the script really quickly, because I want to say this. I do think you should work the script, and I have look, my book is Mistakes I've Made So You Don't Have To, and so I never want anyone to make this mistake. Writing a script and just going straight into a pitch meeting, yeah, I made that mistake. Luckily, we didn't get to the point where I had to turn over the script because I had asked for an NDA. And that's another story. And everything went sour from that point on. But when I went back to that script, it was absolutely horrendous. I mean, it was every era that you would ever hate. Yeah, it was all in that. All 70 pages of this episodic. So first of all, it wasn't even right. Like, I shouldn't have a 70-page episodic, like, right? And so it was just all of these different things. And so you do want to workshop your script. And so now I get readers in. I'll pay people to come sit down. I'll get them food. And let's just read the script. You play 5 roles. You play 6 and everything. But another thing, if you don't want to do that, too, you can hire someone to do script coverage for you. Because most development, a lot of networks have their own in-house people that are really covering their scripts. And they're writing a whole one sheet up about what they read in their scripts, right? And so script coverage will analyze your characters and analyze the tone and the arc of your script and the structure of it and all of this to tell you what's missing, what's wrong, what works, what doesn't work. And then you can kind of judge it from then. But then what it does is it allows you to feel confident when you know, like, I'm not pitching you, I'm offering you this opportunity. This is good. Can I curse? This stuff is good. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know my stuff good because it done went through, like that. You want to feel like that when you're going in. So I believe that you should really be workshopping. I don't even remember the other question. I wanted to get at that so bad.
Well,
that I don't remember
and about the
question.
confidence and the passion, because in the, I know that is so quintessential to what you're doing, is like they're kind of they're investing in you as a person. So
When you're going into pitch, you mean having the passion?
yeah.
Oh, well, see, I feel like the passion, as far as passion is concerned, that's what's going to win the buyer over at the end of the day. It's, if you're passionate about it, if you start telling that story, think about everything that kept you up at night writing this project, right? You were obviously passionate to stay up every night writing and coming up with these ideas. That's passion. If you're working with a partner, you're like, oh, and everyone, you're one-upping each other and you're feeding off that passion, right? And then what happens is when we go into pitch, we forget about the passion. We put on the Harvard and the jacket and whatever else, and it's like, well, why would you bring Harvard into this? When you spent all that time just like creating and in the art world, and then you bring your Harvard business suit in there and you want to come, you can't do that. You have to bring that passion into that pitch, and so and you have to almost look at them like, let me tell you this story. Really, at the end of the day, let's be clear. Pitching is storytelling. That's it. So you come in there just giving a bunch of facts and this is about this and this. I don't know if that's going to get it as much because you can't, I don't know if it's going to reach the heart of the other person, right? But if you're talking from that place where you was writing, then so listen, and you're here with it. Y'all are already in tune into me because I didn't set up and telling my story, but that's what your pitch should be like. You should be just as energetic and excited to tell this story as you were when you were creating that story. So passion absolutely plays a big role.
Do we have, do people have questions? And I don't know what that process, do they need a mic? Do we have a floating mic going around for questions? Liam, anybody? Can I get the mic let's start, I don't know who's first, I'm bad at this.
Zigzag. She should have gone first because she helped us.
Okay, yes.
And then we go back, which is
Right
zigzag.
here, that's first. If you could do that,
Making it
I'm not
fair.
gonna.
That was what I promised.
Okay?
Thank you for honoring your promise.
And just project, because I still
Oh,
can't
it's not.
really hear.
Hi, everybody. I would love for you guys, or at least one of you guys, to walk us through a day of a pitch. Like, is it first you send this email, they're interested, then they call you, and like, can you actually tell us the hourly, or if you will, the step-by-step process to getting accepted or getting your project picked up?
It's not a day in it. It's a process though, right?
Right.
You got to get the meeting, right? So newcomers don't always have agents or lawyers. So you're newbie, you somehow got into the office. You sent an email, you saw me at a festival, or somebody who caught me and they're like, hey, can you take a look at this? So you got to get in. And I know it sounds like it's cliche, whatever, but it is varied. I actually do not want people to believe there's just one way to do things. There's a lot of ways to do it. And if you get me and you have that, then you send me an email. Like she said, I am going to look at the one sheet. I'm going to review it. I might look at it 5 minutes before you walked in the office, but I'm going to look at it really quickly.
Can I back you up? How do they get a meeting with you?
It depends. I mean, sometimes agents are calling us, but it's I don't know. The owner of the company has somebody they want us to meet. I meet people at festivals. Right now, somebody's gonna come to me and ask me, and it's fine, and you'll be patient with me because it'll take me some time. But anyway. I mean, you're gonna make a meeting with me, right? So I get it.
My process, do you mind if I, Keisha?
Go ahead, please.
So, all of these different ways. Sometimes I am meeting people outward, but let's just say I know nobody from Adam, right? I have a process. First of all, I'm getting ahead of this meeting that I know I'm going to ask for, so I use social media to get ahead. I'm connecting to them and I'm connecting to everybody that they're connected to, right? I've done that. And then I'm putting out content that could potentially interest them. right? Just so that they say, huh. And then I'm also engaging on their posts, right? I make sure I say, because I don't want to seem the opportunist, like I'm very opportunistic, like I'm only there because I want something. But it's like, let me really engage them. Oh, this is so nice, this is whatever. So I do a lot of that type of stuff. It's not just a one and done with me. But when I am going to reach out, I make sure I have the subject heading is clickbait. And then I make sure whatever, I'm like really thinking through what I'm going to try to write.
And Squeaky, why don't you tell them about how long it took for you to make me?
So I don't want to talk about this. See, this is the thing. So I had
You have to get the book.
I had been really, yeah, you can get the book, but I don't think that's in the book. Maybe or maybe not. I don't know if that made the cut. But I really massaged my relationship with Robin. And I think it took well over a year or more, but of consistent, hey, this is, I'm not interested. Or you're like, and then out of nowhere, she would just reply and say, do you have a mental health piece? Yeah, actually I do. Then nothing, because she's busy. And from my perspective at that time, it's like, she just why she ain't freaking, what the hell? I was like, what the? And I'm like, whatever. But you do you can't, that's why what you said is really important. You cannot be hanging on and all of your eggs in Robin's basket because, baby, look.
Yeah.
But the point, let me just add on to that point, because the point is that I would ask her something and then we change our views, that we're changing our filters or our needs. But she was persistent. So there's a difference between being annoying and persistent. And you have to figure out what that is for you based on your personality and the person. I say quarterly. But Squeaky's name is unique, and it would come up. And then I was just like, oh my God, like, I go through, every once in a while I go through all my emails. It's just, I keep a folder of all the people I haven't. I red flag everything. It'll take me time, but I do it. But it is about being persistent. And so when I came up with ideas in my head, I'm like, okay, let me reach out to this young lady. I know that she was talking about it. And everyone, I want them to talk to you, but it's just no one way to do it. It's just about being professional, prepared, passionate. The P's, I call them. Like, it's all these things that you have to bring to the table, and you'll get it. After a while, the world's this big. I don't pay attention to LinkedIn. Like, I half pay attention to LinkedIn. You might get me on Facebook, but you can try different ways to get a person. But if you know that you're going to see me speak somewhere, you might want to come there and try to catch me outside. You want to pay the bill? Just meet me outside, because I'm going to be taking a cab uptown.
But I'm a stalker.
Or like if IFP2, they have like, pitch sessions where you can sign up for things like that, which is
And film festivals are really good. Like 3 or 4 movies that we've done are from festivals. Those are really good places to send if you're doing films more than television shows. I'm not so sure about, we don't take a lot of TV series. But if it's good, it's going to rise to the top. It's going to go through a whole process.
Can I just ask too, how important is it now, since everybody knows of the rise of Issa Rae? She had a webisode, she had another webisode, and then suddenly she has this huge HBO deal. How important is it to just make content as opposed to pitching it? Because you have these examples of she got the
gentleman
views.
speak about that.
Oh, so, not to diss anyone, but one of the most encouraging things for me was watching like the first season of Awkward Black Girl, or watching the first season of Broad City when there was just a digital series before Comedy Central picked it up. And you see it, and you're like, "Whoa! I could totally do this."
Yeah.
Like
everybody know they could totally do
you
Awkward Black Girl.
Totally do it. I mean. And great for her. I think she's excellent. The show's amazing, or whatever. But you see the work, and you're not going to be blown away. And she benefited from first movers. But you see it, it's inspiring because like, oh, I can do this, and you go out and do it. And then, instead of trying to describe the vision of what you want to do, they could see it themselves. Like, oh, all right, if you have this and multiply the budget by 10, then what could this be on that level, or whatever. So.
I mean, I would just say do both, because anybody, like if you see that movie Tangerine, they did that on an iPhone. They edited the movie on an iPhone. So if people are coming to me and they necessarily have nothing, I'm just
But that was also like, I think his third feature film, so I think to speak to all of this, it is really important to just keep making stuff. And the series you mentioned, you know, that's awesome, and that definitely happens in this day and age, but it's also maybe the exception, you know, like you definitely have to get a little lucky, so just, you know, keep making stuff and keep, you know, pushing yourself and making it
If I
better.
may, if you guys check out Issa Rae, look up on New York Times, there was a point where that HBO deal almost fell apart. Because she had to learn to be flexible. She had to learn that, and I deal with, one of my directors I just dealt with, he thought he was making it independent. I'm like, no, we commissioned you, and we all have opinions. And up until the release, he was still fighting us. And so there's a really great article that was in the New York Times maybe 2 years ago, because that show almost didn't go on the air. Because and some of the folks, the executives were saying that she did not understand there's a process with a network. There's one thing when you're independent and you're the producer and you're putting on a social media. There's another thing when we have to sell it. We have PR, we have marketing and ad sales that we have to sell, and they have to make sure the content works. If it's HBO, they don't have ad sales, they're subscription based. But then there's Black and Sexy TV, which was pretty successful. And then they had this big deal with HBO and Spike, and I'm thinking it's still like in the wavering. I'm not sure if it's still going forward. So you can do stuff, but also be able to be flexible in what you've done. Don't be so tied to like this thing I made and no one can put their print on it, because people are putting their money in, they're gonna have a say. It's like your parents. They're gonna give you money for college, they're gonna give you whatever.
That's funny, because I was just reading like this guy, Brandon Tartikoff. I don't know if you know him. He was a big time NBC exec, and I mean Law and Order, Golden Girls, Cosby. But anyway, he said that there's a formula to NBC, and he's like there's going to be one executive who's going to tell. It's called the Blue Red 26. The first executive is going to tell you he needs a little bit more blue. The second exec is saying she needs a little bit more red. And I'm going to come in here and say it's not about color at all. It's about numbers, and I need a 26. So that's kind of, you gotta, you know, and it's funny, a lot of the research people are just saying you can't come in there just belligerent, argumentative. I mean, you want to hold on to your thing, but you're just like, oh, this is a female character, and it's like, oh no, well really we want a male. Yeah, well, yeah, I could see that. You know, you kind of, you know, because at the end of the day, we want to sell. You want to sell, right? And
so people do that. They come in like they don't have anything, and they're going to tell you how they're going to do. Like that's just bonkers.
When they get into the process, is my creative process.
I'm just
or whatever.
saying, you come in there pitching, and then people are going to say, like,
I don't think you should have to sell everything. I know you should be flexible, but
it's a balancing act.
I do think
it's a balancing act.
Yeah, it's a balancing act.
Coming from a world of like independent filmmaking, and like there's so many constraints because you don't have any money. We're like, oh, I want to shoot here. You can't. It's like, to me, the creativity is working within those confines and say, oh, this is the budget, and we did something awesome with that budget, right? And a lot of times there's things we want to do, we just can't do it. But if you're creative enough, you can find a way to do it on the budget. That's me.
But when it's, in other words, but still when you have to marry their money and somebody else's money into it, what Robin is saying is that they're going to put their imprint. So it's going to,
that's what
and
I'm
you're
100%.
saying, yeah, you should be able to create with much more money, but now you have to mix their thoughts into.
No. Yeah, I totally
Red
get
26.
that.
And let me just tell y'all this little anecdote, because 20 years ago, next year will be 20 years, I did a movie called Have Plenty. So I'm also on that side of the camera, right? And my director, writer, producer, Chris Chereau, like, we did this movie for under 100. Like, I won't even tell you how ridiculously low we did it. And then we got Miramax in Toronto. And they weren't happy with the ending. They did focus groups, and no one was happy with the ending. And Chris, the audience had all these opinions, and Chris, being the artist that he was, came up with a smart-ass ending. That's a smart-ass ending. Yeah. I mean, it worked, and we were able to play it because we had Babyface and his wife, who were our executive producers, Tracy Edmonds. And so we had all these celebrities. But if you really watch that movie, it's Chris's reply to being forced to do a new ending. He wanted it to end on this like weird moment in the film, and he's an independent, but he learned. Yeah. And so, and then Chris hasn't really gone into the mainstream. Some people are going to be independent producers, and if that's what you want to be, that's what you're going to be. And with the web and digital, you have a lot more choices than you had before. The other side of that is like 12 years ago, or 13 now, I went to TV One, and they started hiring people like me who are creatives to be on that side of the desk. Before, they were just suited people, not like fun suits, they were just suited people, and they had no concept of creative. They just wanted you to hit. So a lot of people nowadays that are executives are creatives. They're not just like numbers and dollars. They're people who really respect the art. And you're hoping that you're going to meet someone like that.
Like you said you do both. I do both. Charlie does both. Do we have more questions? Who has the mic? Okay, I'll let you do that.
Yes, greetings to the panel. My question is this: once you go through the process of your pitch, you're enthusiastic as far as your vision, what you want to display. You go through all the necessary negotiations. How long does that process take? Once it's a give and take thing, you get critiqued. How does that work?
I think you know the answer. It's just not. There's not an answer.
Yeah, it varies hugely.
Varies?
But expect for it to take longer than you think.
I was going to say, when they were talking about the worst pitches, I think to me the worst pitch is when you walk out of the room and everyone's super excited and you walk out thinking you got a deal done. And I've been in situations like, oh, the paperwork, you're going to get it by the end of the week. And you're like all excited, you're making all these plans or whatever, getting a new couch or whatever. And then you're like, whoa, what happened to that? And then weeks turn to months or whatever. And then it finally dawns on you, you get realistic and you're just like, oh, wait, that was nothing. Yeah.
But I will say it ain't over till it's over. Like sometimes it's something you think will take days or weeks, and it ends up taking months. But keep the pot on the stove and without being annoying, and stay on somebody's radar. Their plate might be a little full at that moment, but yeah.
We're notorious for taking forever. We're notorious. Every once in a while, like that When Love Kills, that was fast, but because we were looking for something like that, so it made it work for us. But normally, it takes a while.
And it also depends on how fully developed you come to. Not fully developed, but how developed you come to the table, right? If you are coming in with just this idea, this concept, and you haven't done, you still have to commission writers and do all of this other stuff, that can take much longer than if you've written it and they actually like the script, or it's just a little bit of work needs to be done and maybe you've already somewhat packaged it or whatever. It depends on how fully developed the idea is, I think.
Are we pitching this? Are we pitching? Sorry, don't worry. We're pitching the same idea to different, and just kind of trying to cater your pitch to networks, or is that still even a thing?
I think whatever you've created, you kind of think, where does this fit? And I think you go from there. Where does this fit? Where would I?
But some things you can tweak.
Yeah,
some things are just not for us, right? We're not ESPN, so we're not going to do a sports show, right, for the most part. But you can tweak stuff. We tweak all the time.
But I was thinking I heard the pitch about the 18th century West Indian
Rum cake.
project. I'm like, but who can produce a?
I mean, think about underground and just think about where but they made it happen.
Yeah.
I just think it's all so general right now because you think the Learning Channel. What did they have on? You can learn anything, so it's like anything goes channel. That's what they might as well
History's in
call
right
it.
now, by the way. A lot of
I was
people.
thinking about
History
I was just
Channel.
thinking about how expensive.
But beyond History Channel, a lot of people
how expensive
it's
the
expensive.
project
We
was.
did a period piece.
The
It's
UPN,
expensive. No, but like a lot of
WGN.
production companies are taking it, and because Netflix and Amazon, I just heard something really
Hulu.
ridiculous about Amazon. They have so much
BBC.
money.
So much money.
So if you got projects, try Amazon, because they have so much money and they're looking for everything in Netflix. I mean, just
Netflix
be
just-
passionate and believe in your stuff, and that is coming from a source inside of you. You just got to keep working it. People just I did this great thing and no one's paying attention. You got to make people pay attention. You just got to keep drilling it out to everybody you can think of. And a lot of people hold on to their stuff. They're scared. They're like, I don't want someone's going to steal my idea. Well, they never see it. They can never steal it. And then you got to worry about the stealing on the other end.
Or they do.
Yeah.
Or you got to worry about someone else coming up with your idea.
Well, we also
I mean,
have collective consciousness.
It is like
Yeah.
you can't copyright ideas is the problem, because with my sneakerhead show, you will see another sneakerhead show produced by LeBron James, and there was it's some shady situation there. I'm not saying LeBron had anything to do with being shady, but it's coming out of HBO, and we're like, we had that idea first.
But it's the collective universe. I mean, what do you call it?
The collective consciousness.
Collective consciousness.
Yeah.
And we know Mike Boogie had that idea years and years ago.
We had one too.
Right. Oh, with sneakerhead. Yeah. Do we have time for another question? Or no? Could you want to decide who gets? everybody's valid.
We'll stay around.
So I just wanted to ask, you guys brought up that it's important to also have web content as well, or just something to show. How important it is to have a trailer along with the pitch and the script? Is it okay to have maybe like a 10-second to 30-second trailer just to show that you've already worked on it and show the potential of it?
If it's really good.
Okay.
If your trailer is going to be detrimental to your project, I wouldn't show it. Like, again, it's about the story. Some people come in, and again, if you're too committed to what you put on that tape, and it throws me off as a exec or anybody looking at it, I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
We're not requiring that.
What about attachments? No one, like talent attachments. We didn't talk about
Yeah, you
that.
could do attachments. We love that. We kind of talked about it more from a producer standpoint, but yeah, we like attachments. Actually, we somewhat cast based, like, no, this is not, like, we're not going to make our lead based on their Twitter feed, but if you are some other character and I'm like choosing between you two, and you have a million Twitter followers and you have 5, we might go with you, and if you're equal par. It makes a difference. It's like built-in marketing. And we know that person's going to be active when the show comes on the air. But attachments are always great, as long as the attachments are not impeding the process and they're not ridiculous and asking for $1 million off the top.
Right.
I mean, $1 million. Then with Brick TV, like, we had a couple of celebrity potential attachments, and it's like, oh, we need to pay them to fly them here.
Yes.
We need to do this. And then it just becomes like, we don't know what the value add is going to be necessarily. I know it's going to be good, but we don't necessarily have it here at this stage because we don't have those types of budgets. So, Liam, are we done? Yeah, let's do one more.
Right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, we'll make sure you get the answer. We'll stay. Sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Sorry for anybody who didn't get their questions in.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hi, Nina.
So my question is for you, Charlie. You spoke about a documentary series that you pitched. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because I'm in the process of doing a documentary series myself and want to pitch it to networks, but I don't know exactly where I should start. So if anybody wants to answer the question, but I know you mentioned that.
I can give you my info too, and I can send you some of the write-ups, descriptions and stuff that we came up with. But so the documentary series, it's called Frameworks, and it's self-contained episodes following extraordinary everyday New Yorkers on some sort of personal quest. So there's these little bites that I have like that, like it's Humans of New York meets Chef's Table, So
That was really good, see?
yeah, my boss.
Hashtag love
Yeah. So for us, it was a little tricky because it's all the episodes are self-contained, so it's not one storyline, but there's certain connective tissue to each episode. So then from there, that I would usually go and describe the individual episodes. So we have like a Tajik refugee and former ping pong champion who starts a club in Midwood, Brooklyn, and is like training his protege to like the Brooklyn Slam Poetry team, preparing for national competition in Atlanta. So yeah, that sort of thing. And then I would discuss kind of like the visual style. We had a really talented DP, Emmy-nominated, Emmy-winning, and this concept of bringing like a really high cinematic production value to these kind of everyday characters, which kind of uplifts them in their own personal quest, and then hopefully kind of inspires the viewer to kind of uplift them and give them confidence. And so the story is kind of, or the idea of the series is like a city is a sum of its stories, and trying to tell the story of a city through the individual stories and like hopes and dreams of its inhabitants. So that was kind of the general stuff, but I'm happy to like send you more if you're interested.
Cool. Okay. How about a round of applause one more time for our amazing panel? So we're gonna wrap it up. Though it seems like they'll hang around for a few minutes for questions. But before we do, as I said at the beginning, this is the second of 3 events. The next event, write it down. Thursday, November 16th, is going to be our Brick TV Open Pitch, okay? And here's the deal. This is a chance for those of you that want to get 5 minutes to introduce your idea and sell your show. and then you're going to get feedback. It's going to be on November 16th. And here's the deal. Secret, top secret, known only to you and people on Facebook, is that at 9 p.m. tonight, the RSVPs are going to open up, and you're the first to know. Yeah, right. So I'm going to go on there. And no, anyway. So, yeah, that's at 9 p.m. tonight. The website, ready, brickartsmedia.org/pitch. brickartsmedia.org/pitch.
Can I add one thing too? If you can look on our YouTube page at Brick TV and look at this awesome show, Brooklynification. Look at Soul Kings. Look at Frameworks, and do your research and just
Soul Kings.
yeah. I said that.
All the shows.
All the shows.
Thank you.
TV1. Make sure you
TV1.
And check out my book if you're 100 pitches if you're interested
got books.
in looking at it.
So, Liam, we'll stay.
Yeah, hang around. Okay, cool. Well, we'll wrap up the formal shoot, but thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming, everybody. Thanks very much.
No, I can stay. Got nothing better to do.
He's got a brood. He's got to get.